At this time, the regular meeting of the Board of School Commissioners will come to order. I'd ask that Dr. Crenshaw lead us in the prayer and pledge.
Let us pray. Oh, gracious Heavenly Father, we come and give you thanks, Lord, for allowing us to see another day. Lord, we ask your blessing on the school system, the faculty, staff, and the students, all those individuals that making our students better students. Put a loving spirit in our Lord. We ask now a special blessing over those first responders, those men and women that keep us from all hurt, harm, and danger. These things we ask in your daughter in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do I hear a motion for the approval of the minutes of previous board meetings?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded to approve the minutes of previous board meetings. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Just 1 second here, please. My computer just went out, and I believe that, is Charles still here? One thing you can say for paper, it doesn't go out.
Okay. That's when you need a little notebook.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion for the agenda adoptions?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded to adopt the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any announcements? Mr. Harwell?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Battles?
Yes, sir. I wanted to acknowledge, I got one recognition tonight, but I wanted to acknowledge the absence of Mr. Kirby Lane.
He just came in.
Oh, he did?
Yes, sir.
But we'll just do that after. No announcement.
He made it right in time for the bill.
Anyway, other than Mr. Lane, I also did a special recognition for Ms. Veronica Moe Vincent for her outstanding performance at Waysome High School. Her responsibility primarily was to be the assistant principal, but she went way beyond the call of duty when we didn't have a band director. And she's a former band director, and she did it on her own without extra pay. So I'm going to give her this certificate in commemoration for that. And then Mr. Ed Sanderson over at Palmer Pillars. And those are the only announcements that I have.
Okay.
Mr. Stringfellow's
Mr. Stringfellow.
laptop has gone out. I mean, his
It just went
tablet.
out, too. Mr. Stringfellow, do you have any
No.
Dr. Crenshaw? I have none either.
I do.
Okay.
We were just notified before coming to the board meeting that Mrs. Chastity Collier has received the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. She'll be with a small group of teachers that will be recognized and receive the honor tomorrow at the White House.
Fantastic.
What school is it?
One of mine.
Dawes Intermediate. And she's been Alabama's Teacher of the Year also.
County Teacher of the Year, Alabama Teacher of the Year, and now something else. So.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. Reports and recognitions.
Yes, we have a few. So first, I'd like to call forward Mr. Robert Battles and Principal Michelle Adams. This year, the Alabama Department of Education issued report cards on all of its 1,247 schools. Of those, only 9 schools statewide received a perfect score of 100. One of those perfect scores happens to have been made by our very own Eichhold Mertz School of Math and Science. Home of the investigators, Eichhold Mertz credits its success to its dedicated parents, hardworking teachers, and engaged students. The report cards rated schools based on test scores and attendance. As WKRG reported, Eichhold-Mertz is the only school in its entire viewing area to receive a 100. I would like to note that there were 17 schools that scored 99s, and that included 3 Mobile County schools. That's Phillips Preparatory, Council Traditional, and Dolphin Island Elementary. Congratulations to Eichhold-Mertz School of Math and Science.
On behalf of the Board of School Commissioners, Michelle, I've already congratulated you personally because of your achievement. But with all the failing schools that we have within my district and Dr. Crenshaw's district, I think that this is a very good highlight showing that excellence can be taken if we had the right things that were necessary to facilitate that. So on behalf of the Board of School Commissioners and the Superintendent, I want to present to you your 100.
Y'all have to go.
And you said that right, your mom. I take care of both of these guys.
Mr. Battles, we've got one more from your district. I'd like to call forward Principal Kervin Lang and anyone else from Williamson High School. As Mobile County is redefining ready, all high schools are striving to graduate students who are college, career, and life ready. Williamson High School is making great gains in this area and was recently announced as having the highest FAFSA improvement rate among all medium-sized Alabama high schools. With the class of 2018, Williamson High School increased its number of students completing the FAFSA, which stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid, by 156%. The school was recently recognized at a state conference and is receiving a $500 grant from Cash for College. Completing a FAFSA application is the most important step to receiving financial aid, as it is required to access grants, loans, and many scholarships to help pay for college. According to the U.S. Department of Education, 9 out of 10 students who complete a FAFSA continue their education after high school. Also, Williamson High School's class of 2018, which is 126 seniors, received $4.5 million in college scholarships. Congratulations.
Most of you know me from the last 4 years that I've been a board member of my consistent fight to try to get equity in education and to make sure that whatever deficiency that we have had, because I came out of a deficiency and I know that we can change it. On behalf of the Board of School Commissioners, I'd like to commend Mr. Lane and Ms. Robinson, Mr. Lang and Mr. Robinson for a great achievement. In the next month, we'll break the ground at Williamson High School for the addition of the 8 classrooms and a new science laboratory and a new gymnasium. I'm trying to work now in order to make sure that we could get some resources so we could paint the front of the building, because we know that pride in our students that they can achieve despite the conditions. I entered the University of South Alabama in 1969 under some terrible conditions, and I know that my students can do the same thing if I could do it. So thank you, Mr. Lane, and on behalf of
And that was Ms. Tamika Robinson with Mr. Lang. She's the counselor who was responsible for the FAFSA applications. All right.
One of my former students back there, thank you.
All right, now I would like to turn the microphone over to Dr. Sheila Martin with Scholastic Learning Supports, who has a presentation and an award to present to the board.
Does that mean she's coming out of retirement?
Trying to get that back paid.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, President Foster, commissioners, our counselor, retiring Superintendent Peak, and our future superintendent, Threadgood, family, school board members, and other guests. Thank you. I would like to take a moment, and it is a privilege to do this because this is my former stomping grounds for more than 30 years, to come back and do an honor to about the children and their success, because this was the place where my heart started, and it still holds a special place in my heart. She said who I am. I'm Sheila Martin. I used to be the executive director for special education here. I served for over 30 years here, and in that capacity, I travel now with the State Department as a representative for learning supports. I have traveled the state and the District of Learning Supports in partnership to do what we are trying to do, break barriers in learning for children. Learning Supports is an organizational framework that supports district personnel in their efforts to improve student success, align multiple initiatives, and ensure a collaborative process for personnel who must implement programs and services for students, spearheaded by our very own Rhonda Neal Waltman. It's important to know that this work that I'm doing was started and begun right here in Mobile off of Hurricane Katrina. When the district was faced with that crisis of helping displaced families from Louisiana, enrolling in our schools, finding housing, and other assistance, the planning and implementation that Mobile County did under Dr. Waltman now serves as a model around the state, and now is spreading out around the nation. She had a book that she used in grad school called Learning Supports, Rebuilding from Learning with Dr. Adelman and Dr. Taylor. She used this book to implement a process that was picked up by the U.S. federal government. And not only that, when she took it to Louisiana, it was noticed by the state of Alabama. So Dr. Bice brought it back here. That was over 5 years ago. Anyway, to make a long story short, the work done by Rhonda right here in Mobile came to the attention, as I said, of Scholastic, who partnered with the state of Alabama, Dr. Bice. And thus, the journey began with implementing learning supports. I'm proud to say that the Williamson feeder pattern in Mobile County Public School was the part of that initiative, and they've been a part since 2015. It was led by Ms. Belinda Roberts and she was assisted by Ms. Karen Howard. The Williamson feeder pattern has made great strides implementing the learning supports framework and several initiatives. You just heard one where they're doing faster, because the initiative of learning support is not only looking at your management style and your academic style, it's bringing in outsourced resources, and everybody using the framework we used with Katrina to help break barriers down for our children. And Williamson's feeder pattern has been doing that now since 2015. So if we could bring the principals that are here from the Williamson feeder pattern, and Mr. Battles, Commissioner Battles, that would be Kervin Lang, Melissa Mitchell, June Stanford, Tracy Hunter.
Looks like Mr. Lang is representing the Williamson feeder pattern tonight.
You want to read it? Or do you want me? No. Go ahead.
You want to read it?
Go ahead.
The Alabama Department of Education Office of Learning Support presents to Mobile County Schools a certificate of achievement for exemplary leadership in the implementation of the learning support system to address barriers to learning. And you know, as Williamson is one of my favorite schools, have had a lot of barriers to learning, but we're on the upswing. We're going to continue to ask Lord to bless us Well, Mr. Lang, on behalf of the Board of School Commissioners, we're going to present this to you as the principal at Williamson High School, and going to commend you for your continued success.
Thank you. And we are confident that the district will continue in the great strides in the collaborative effort that the feeder pattern at Williamson has done to reduce student barriers and to continue to improve student success. We thank you for your participation, and we also wish you the best. Thank you.
Yeah, like she shot,
A counselor back there too, isn't the counselor? That's my former student. huh?
All right, scoot that way a little bit. All right. Smile. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
All right, we have one more resolution, and it's in honor of Martha Peak, who is retiring, and she's super excited to get recognition. So I'm going to read this, and Dr. Foster is going to present it to you. Whereas Martha L. Peak is a native of Biola Battery who graduated from Alba School, the University of Alabama, and the University of South Alabama, and whereas her family members have been educators in Mobile County Public Schools for 3 generations, with continuous service since 1908, and whereas Martha L. Peak has devoted 46 years to Mobile County Public Schools, starting her career in 1972 as an elementary teacher at Alba School, serving as principal of Dixon Elementary for 18 years, and moving to central office in 1999 as executive director, assistant superintendent, and eventually deputy superintendent. And whereas Martha L. Peak was appointed superintendent in 2012 and has served diligently as the district's first female superintendent and 17th superintendent overall, always putting students first. And whereas MCPSS under her leadership has increased its 4-year on-time graduation rate to 86%, its student scholarship total to $143 million, its number of career credentials earned by students to 14,367, and its number of students taking advanced placement courses to 1,619. And whereas she and the Board of School Commissioners completed a $100 million construction program that included building new schools and renovating other schools throughout Mobile County. And whereas she has fostered community engagement in our schools through initiatives such as her Student Advisory Council, her Business and Industry Roundtable, the It Starts With Us campaign, and her membership in many community organizations. And whereas the district under her leadership established signature academies at all 12 high schools that have linked business, industry, and higher education in robust partnerships to inform curriculum, provide student internships, and support the development of student career pathways. And whereas she is leading the state in a national effort of redefining ready by ensuring that all students are college ready, career ready, and life ready. Whereas she is retiring from her role as superintendent of the Mobile County Public Schools effective June 30th, 2018. Now, therefore, the Mobile County Board of School Commissioners recognizes the outstanding contributions made by Mrs. Martha L. Peak to the Mobile County Public Schools.
Even before that, under your leadership as deputy superintendent, and in the previous years as executive director and as teacher and as principal in Mobile County Public Schools. And on behalf of the board, we present this proclamation to you. Thank you. Okay, citizens' requests. At this time, we have the citizens who wish to speak before the board. Our superintendent has a card that says 1 minute left so that you'll know. When we speak before the board, the delegates need to make sure they make their presentations in the way that they wish to. The good name and character of an individual may not be discussed during an open board meeting, as the board does not do that, and others should not as well. The delegates are here to speak this evening, and at this time, the first one on the list is Rodney Kim Jr.
Good evening.
Good evening.
To the school board members. My name is Rodney Kim Jr., and I've come to you today asking for the removal of Coach Fred Riley. Each day that Riley continues to be the head coach, it is a constant reminder of the nightmare that I have endured and that I have to relive every single day of my life. I am pleading with you and everyone in the school board of you to fire Coach Riley, please. And I didn't want to ask any rhetorical questions today, so I'm going to get straight to the point. How would you feel if that was you in that locker room, or if that was your grandson or your son or your great-grandson? So I want you to sit there and think in your mind, how would you feel? And take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Kim.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Coach Fred Riley has a history of questionable behavior. Riley is unfit to be in a position of authority over any sports program or school-age children in any capacity. It is both telling and disappointing that the Mobile County School Board was swift and immediate in the expulsion of the students involved, but continue to condone through their enacting the accountability of the person who owns responsibility of these students. Let me be clear that my family does not in any way celebrate this decision by the school board against my son's ex-teammates, who were found to be participants in this vicious attack. However, the fact that Mobile continues to employ this person and seemingly excuse his lack of integrity, his inability to lead, is highly disappointing and reflects poorly on the current superintendent and this board. Their message is clear: we don't care about your children or the ultimate well-being of the children entrusted to pass through the school system. So I am asking for the removal of Coach Fred Riley immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Johnson.
President, I am just a supporter of the removal of Fred Riley, and that is why I am here. I'm a member of the community, and I believe that his actions speak louder than words, which will not do. So I am in support of that.
Okay. Gabriel Kim.
I'm Rodney Kim Jr.'s sister.
Come up to the mic.
Good evening. I'm Rodney Kim Jr.'s sister, and I just asked for the removal of Coach Fred Riley. I was on the softball team at Davidson, and to just watch that video and see what my brother had to go through, it really tore me up inside. You know, y'all have children. I'm pretty sure it's kids up in here that have brothers and sisters. How would you feel? How would you feel if that was your sibling going through that, your sibling having nightmares at night? How would you feel if you have to help your brother bathe at night because he's hurt, he can't do anything? Sit there and think about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cynthia Kim.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Cynthia Rain Kim. I'm a retired Mobile County Public School teacher, elementary division. I come to you because I know several of you. I've worked with you, and I know that you put the children first. Anything that you hear and see in a school, sometimes you have to look at it in a different eyesight. You have to see the child. You have to know there might be some hurt. We're asking, and it's not something I would do, to ask for a person's job, because I was in the school system. But I'm asking, do you stop and think and look and put yourself in that position? Think about it. Think how hard it would be for you to have to sit in a hospital with your grandson. Think how hard it would be for you to have to help him to go up the stairs. Think how hard it would be to help him do his computer work without his arm that he should be using. Stop and think, because this could very well be you. I thank you for listening to me, and I hope that you take this to heart and know that this is not a game. We're here to let you know we're serious.
Larry Kim?
My name is Larry Kim. I'm Rodney Jr.'s grandfather. And I want to say that I was very disappointed by the actions of Fred Riley. I know when my son was injured that day, I went to the school along with my other son to pick him up. And he was sitting on the curb with his arm bandaged and swollen, and nobody was there. Fred Riley, not any of the other coaches. I've played football, I've coached football. If one of my players got hurt, I would take him to the hospital. I would see that he got medical care. But Fred Riley, to me, did not do the job he was supposed to do. And if I've heard too many stories about this same thing happening to other kids, other players, but not as seriously as what happened to my grandson. Fred Riley condoned this behavior, and he should be penalized for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Morrell?
Good evening. I am the cousin of Rodney Kim Jr., and I'm here for support. I'm all the way from Mississippi, and I myself was a student athlete, and I feel as though that this behavior is unacceptable. And, you know, not just the physical pain for Rodney Kim Jr., but the mental state. You know, I know how it feels. I've seen it myself before, and, you know, I wish someone could put a stop to it at the place I was in, you know, but this has got to stop, and I am here for the support of the removal for Fred Riley. Thank you.
Vinay Minor?
I'm just here to say that I support the fire. Oof, no, hold on. I'm just here to say that I am with the firing Coach Fred Riley.
Karan Benjamin? All right, thank you. Prince Fitzpatrick?
I'm in support of the removal of Fred Riley.
Vondra Johnson?
I'm in support as well of the removal.
Mary B. Walker?
Good evening.
Good evening.
To Superintendent Peaks and to President Foster and to the Board of School Commissioners. I'm Mary Walker. I serve as Secretary of Mobile Branch NAACP, and I am here in support of the removal of Fred Riley. I also like to just say that any adult that would stand by while children are being abused and do nothing, they do not deserve to work in the system.
Esther Lynn Mitchell?
Good afternoon to Ms. Peak and the President and the Commissioners and everyone present here today. I would just like to say that I'm very disappointed with the school system right now as it relates to the young man being injured and the coaches knowing about it and just leaving him there on the curb for his family to come and send him to the hospital or take him to the hospital. It was the responsibility of the coaches to make sure. I know the kids signed releases because my children played football in Mobile. I had a husband that coached there 12 years. So I know what their responsibilities are, and I am for the removal of Coach Riley because he neglected his duty when he didn't take care of this child. Thank you.
Franklin S. McMillian.
To Dr. Foster, Superintendent Peake, to the board as a whole. I have 3 things I want to speak toward. Number one, I'm really not sure, and I could not find policy for the board as it relates to these kind of issues. And I wanted to know whether or not anything had been implemented to deal with this issue, which we're dealing with as an isolated issue. But doing some research on my own, I have found it not to be an isolated issue and not just isolated to that one institution. Second thing, I appreciate the accolades that have gone to Williamson and all the fine things that they have done, but we have 9 failing schools and we have some schools that are D schools. And I have not seen a plan of implementation to deal with the raising of those scores and to make those schools viable schools within the district. I want to know whether or not there would be a forthcoming document or some kind of policy to deal with it. And thirdly, outside of the athletics department, there are also these incidents of hazing that occur. And I want to know whether or not there's any monitoring as it relates to student organization where there are male-female situations where they're totally male, totally female, and whether or not it is monitored for hazing, and if not, why.
Randy Poe.
Good evening, board members. I am a 1983 graduate of Davidson High School. My understanding that there is an anti-hazing law in the state of Alabama, and it's clearly that Coach Riley and his staff and others are in violation of that law. Of course, I support the recommendations of the Kim family. I support the Kim family. Unless you've been what they've been through, you have no idea what they've been through. I would assume as a parent that the goal of the school is also to protect and make sure that the students, even in this case athletes, have every opportunity to excel. In 2014, at the beginning of the Davidson High School season, there was a young man who was supposed to be the starting quarterback, about 6'3". He could throw the ball. He won all of the JV games that previous year. All of a sudden, during summer practice, he was moved to wide receiver, and a smaller, less athletic player was placed in his position. And of course, that affects the outcome of the season. So if you are in charge of making sure that the children have an opportunity to excel and you do something like this, then why are you in that position? Next thing you know, this same 6'3" kid who could play ball was off the team. I just so happened to be in the stadium the night that he was not playing on Davidson's high school team. And I said, young man, why aren't you playing? He said, well, the coaches feel that I'm not representative of Davidson's football team. And he put his hand near his ears because he had an earring on. I'm not sure if that was the case, but he moved on to LaFleur High School, and he did get a college scholarship to play football. The person who took his position who was placed in his position at quarterback at Davidson High School during that year, well, I know, did not get a scholarship. Eventually was benched because he was not as good. This bothered me tremendously because in 1982, a similar situation happened at Davidson High School. This is so long ago, I will mention names as best I can remember. Under Coach Tate Marsh, who was actually a good coach, but that decision didn't make any sense when he moved a smaller player from a different school and replaced him with, and replaced the current quarterback. The quarterback that was replaced was black, and the quarterback that was placed, that was on the field was white. The difference in the two situations was that in 1982, Davidson didn't throw the ball a lot, so it really didn't bother the team, and we went on to have a winning season. But it really had a psychological effect on the team, on us as young people, when adults make such decisions, such that most of the players wanted to walk off the field. And the young man who was, was quarterback who was removed, his name was Wayne Abel. Wayne Abel was really, good guy. And he, all the black players wanted to leave, let's face it. And he came to some of the upperclassmen and said, no, don't walk off the field. In this particular situation, which happened in 2014, Davidson was a more balanced team, and they did throw the ball, which means that they lost some games that they should have won. Or anyone can see that they lost some games that they should have won. Also, that there's a history of kids not getting scholarships because there's questionable actions by the coach and the coaching staff. If you would just talk to some of the players, talk to some of the previous players, you'll find a long pattern. If I can do it, you can do it. You just have to, want to know. The Alabama Athletic Association appears not to be interested in stuff because we actually asked. But again, if you are in charge of an athletic program, especially a women's football team, your goal should be, number one, of course, you want to win, but just as important, even more important, is that the kids are safe. Of course, you want to win, and you want these kids to get opportunities to go to the next level. And unfortunately, that is a situation at Davidson High School. Thank you.
Barbara Payne.
Good evening, Dr. Pete, School Board President, Commissioners, Mr. Threadgill. I am a parent of a former student of Davidson High School. I'm here to support the Kim family. They are my neighbors. As a parent, and I wrote this letter to the Kim family when I realized what had taken place. As a parent, Barbara Haston Payne would like to bring to light my first experience with Coach Riley at Davidson High School. During our son Jay's first year as a freshman at Davidson, during a meet and greet with Coach and the staff in the auditorium, this included parents and football players. Sitting close to the front, the coach introduced himself and explained to us what was required of players and what was expected of parents. During the lecture, he informed us of many things and made us aware of some things that he was expecting, but he did include that he was a deacon in his church. Then some words later, he used profanity, referring to the exceptional experiences with former players. Immediately, I knew that I did not want Jay at Davidson. I must admit, I could no longer focus during the lecture, for I felt like if he cursed in front of parents, then what would he do behind closed doors? Thereafter, when leaving the meeting, I mentioned to my son that I did not feel comfortable with his language, but my son said, "Mom, please give him a chance." On another occasion, after an injury on the football team, and this was during 2013 through 2015, having played with their son, I went up to take some medication to Jay, and because he had had an injury, and one of the coaches in the locker room, of course, did not allow a parent to come in, and I understood that. But he did open the door where I was able to give Jay the medication. At that time, Coach Raleigh was cursing at the football team. And in this letter, this is what I said: "As a parent of several African-American football players, I'm not standing on the accusatorial side, but on the side for what is right." During 2013-2015 at Davidson, many of the players experienced many instances of injustice, neglect, support of college recruitment by coaches and scouts, even support during their time on the football team under this coach. Many football players transferred, and in 2015, we moved Jay to Mobile Christian, where he graduated with honors, which he went to Davidson with an outstanding grade. We moved him. He got a scholarship to Birmingham Southern. Thank you. Therefore, I wanted to say about the Southern Alabama Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and I noticed that Mr. Dennis Hayford, he spoke on behalf of Coach Raleigh. You can be assured, as God's word says, there is nothing hidden that shall not be revealed. That's Luke 8:17. Most incidents that are this tragic, they've occurred before. It only, to our regret, it happened to Rodney Kim Jr. Lastly, and I said as a group of concerned parents, because I did share this letter with other parents of students that had been there, laws and plans against hazing in any form in our schools on any grade level is not acceptable. During and before practice, football game, thank you.
Dorothea Grady.
Dr. Foster, panel, I'm just here in the community, supporting, looking for ideas, ways to better the locker room procedures and accountability in the locker rooms during football practice.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the people who had signed to speak before the board this evening. We will move forward with the action items on the agenda at this time.
A couple of things I'd like to add about the agenda tonight. Been asked to pull G10, that's the sale of the Old Blunt property, for more information to be obtained about the use of that property. So we'd ask that that be pulled tonight, G10, until more information can be acquired about the property.
Charles, excuse me, could you come? We have another computer issue here. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Peake.
Okay, G11 is added to the agenda. There is an old shop building and a portion of property that the Blount Alumni Association has leased for a period of 10 years on the old Blount property. This is, we'd ask that you approve an agreement to extend this lease for 50 years, a long-term lease. With this lease, it would be for the Alumni Association for meetings and also educational purposes. Also, it's for the good and just use of the property where the Alumni Association will maintain the property and also be in the building to prevent there being any problems with the facility not being occupied. The cost for renting this per year be $515 with the Alumni Association also maintaining the liability insurance, $1 million for one incident, $2 million for the maximum. We'd ask that you approve that. Also, G13 has been added. It's the cancellation of supplementary pay for educational partners liaisons. That's something we do each year with canceling supplements, and then supplements are brought back when appropriate. So those are added items to the agenda. With that, I would ask that you approve a contract with Edgenuity Incorporated to support math and reading instruction through digital instruction site license at Blount, Williamson High and Williamson Prep, LaFleur High, Washington Middle. That's $210,000 of Title I funds for professional development and a one-year site license.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
As much as we've vetted these items in our work session, I'd like to offer a motion to approve items 1 through 9.
You'll hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded to approve action items 1 through 9. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ms. Peak?
Action item G11, as I just explained, I'd ask you to approve the long-term lease of the section of the old Blount property that contains the old shop building to the Blount Alumni Association.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
move for approval action items G 11 through 20.
You hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded to approve agenda items 11 through 20. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, on item 11, I will abstain as much as a part of that Alumni Association.
Okay, let the record show that Dr. Crenshaw has abstained on agenda item 11.
Yes, sir.
That being said, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That
Opposed?
excuse me.
Ms. Peak?
That concludes the action items in G. Moving on to the consent agenda in H. Would ask that you provide consent and approve STN Consulting for a one-day professional development at Taylor White on dealing with chronic disruptive behavior, $3,650 of local school funds.
You hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, move
Yes.
for approval consent agenda items H 1 through 6.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded to approve consent agenda items 1 through 6. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ms. Peak?
With that, we would move on. There are no expulsions in I. We'd present to you for information, J1, monthly financial statements as we do each month, and J2, purchase orders of $5,000 and over, and that will conclude the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Okay, any particular item discussion or any further clarification that anyone would like? Any old business? Yeah, Board Superintendent requests, as this is the last meeting for Ms. Peak.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just asked that in our next work session, in a closed-door session, because there will be discussion of the name and character of individual that the superintendent, the newly appointed superintendent, will bring back for discussion the situation at Davidson with the coaching staff. In the closed-door session, because it will be naming a character.
Okay.
I know I don't need a second, but just so
Right.
that we can show some accountability.
We can announce that, at that time too. Thank you, Dr. Crenshaw. Any other board superintendent requests? Any pending matters? Attorney?
I sent an email to the board on June 19th regarding 2 proposed suspension agreements.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Offer motion that we concur with the recommendation of the attorney on the said suspension.
I do hear a second. Been moved and properly seconded to concur with the attorney's recommendation. All in favor, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Scheduling of meetings.
Dr. Foster?
Yes.
I request that we go into executive session to discuss legal matters.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded to adjourn for executive session to discuss legal matter. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We will be in executive session. Thank you.
As Alabama's first and largest school system, the Mobile County Public Schools prides itself on the high quality of education we provide our students.
We have been successful over the years in raising our graduation rates
and have been recognized nationally for closing achievement gaps.
We believe that our primary focus is to educate all students to become productive citizens.
This is our commitment to them and to you.
We'll resume the work session, the board meeting at this time. I would ask that our attorney read the protocol that he was supposed to have read before we went into the executive session. Go ahead, Mr. Attorney.
I declare on the record that the pending litigation exception applies to the executive session.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Peak, do you have any meetings that you would like to schedule?
They better be scheduled before Thursday.
No, sir, I don't have any further meetings. As I walked over tonight, I thought, the end. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Threadgill, do you have any that you would like to inform the board of that we probably will meet on thus and such date?
Probably the Thursday of next week when we have a special call.
Thursday of the following week. Okay. At midday? Midday?
Yes, 12.
I will not be here.
Mr. Hack.
Okay, well, you don't.
I know I don't matter, but I'm going to be on vacation.
It's all right. Yeah, that's fine. Sharon, if you'll get that date, please inform us. Yes, do I hear a motion that will come out of the executive session? Second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, now, do we have a...
Motion to adjourn?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, not yet. Ms. Abrams, will you inform us or keep us up to date on that if we got it for sure on that Thursday and everything with Mr. Threadgill and so forth? Thank you. Ms. Peak, on behalf of the board, we know that that we have worked together for the last several years now since you became superintendent in the school system. And for your efforts, not just as part of the superintendency, but primarily as part of the superintendency, we had decided that we would give you a little going away present or a little retirement present, not necessarily going away, but a retirement present from the board and the board alone to show our appreciation for your efforts and for your efforts in working with the board over the last several years. And that being the case, and there is a little card in here too. It's not like Samuel says, whenever I give him a card for something, Pops, is this a money card, just one that's not worth anything? I always tell him, no, there's nothing in there. So that's not, but we do have a little gift for you and on behalf of the board.
Well, thank you very much. You know, this is very much unexpected. I had planned just to retire and to go on off into the sunset, but it has been an honor. It has been a pleasure to work with each one of you. You know, even though it's Martha and the Vandellas, but you know, it's been good. And I have enjoyed that. The one thing that I would say is working with a group of individuals that have the best interest of the students and the school system at heart. And I don't think people understand that the role of the board is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because of your interest in the students in the school system. So thank you very much. Thank you for this lovely gift, and I hope our paths will cross. It just won't be here in the boardroom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Peak. Yes.
I would just like to extend the same type of congratulations to all the people who retired. Dr. Carroll, and to anybody else who fall in that category. That we still have our work.
And gentlemen, thank you. You did such a good job shopping. This is a lovely gift. I would think there's been some wives involved in this. Thank you very much.
I was just going to say, do you think a gentleman?
No, but I'm very proud of you. Thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you.
lovely.
And
Thank
to,
you.
yes, to the others, thank you, Mr. Battles, to Dr. Carroll in particular, who is here today. And do we have any others who are, Dr. Carroll's the only one that I saw that I knew, besides Ms. Peak, that was retiring. Congratulations, Dr. Carroll. We will miss you. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Not from me.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.